Hey guys, how do you do? So today we're going to be talking about comments and questions today, and there's plenty of them. In fact, I had to kind of cut down some of the comments that I picked out because there was just too many of them. But let's move on. Okay, I feel like if we are to be logical about where technology is and what areas of tech are advancing the most, because they have the financial force of big blue chip companies, then it is very likely VR and haptic devices are going to reach the virtual companion stage much sooner than robotics. Picture the idea of advanced VR with some kind of suit which lets you feel motion and touch because today's VR feels disconnected from what you see. It's very strange, but the potential is very much there. I mean, they have been trying to make that kind of stuff for a long time now, actually. They've actually even been making prototypes of suits like he's talking about since I was like, I don't know, a young teenager, but moving on. A sex robot operating like a human is a massive feat of engineering, and there would be lots of parts or systems that can and will fail. There's also risk either to the user or others yet unknown. On the other hand, an AI can be inside a virtual space with who you can feel and touch, and as long as the devices trick your brain enough, it would be the same as if a real person was there, and it would have anywhere near the same cost, risk, or complexity of a sex bot. What the VR lacks is the real world utility. The VR companion cannot make you a sandwich. Well, it can, but the sandwich would be virtual and have no calorie value. Oh, whoa. Also, you could hide your VR girlfriend from your wife or girlfriend a lot more reliably than hiding a doll bot, and VR girl would not need cleaning. So, yeah, cleaning. So you would think of the standard questions you get on how to clean, how to hide. So you can already tell that the public will most likely veer towards the VR advances enough. Also, I didn't mention this before, but you could also say something like, you won't have to carry this thing around, which is another thing. But moving on. But I replied, I remember they said that people would need breaks from VR in order to keep their minds in the real world, but VR has been out for a short while now, and people's brains aren't being tricked at all. Lots of laughs. And then he stated, "Well, not yet. No. Currently, you may need breaks from it because of motion sickness, and it also might depend on the person. Like, if there's like a lot of flashing lights and something, it might give somebody a seizure, etc." All that. Just like some people were getting seizures from Cyberpunk right before it came out, so they had to kind of tone it down a bit on the lighting in the game. But moving on. This person just states, "Your laugh is priceless, never change it." I just said thanks. And then this other person right underneath that's quoted, "But it's quite sudden and weird and surprising." And I just replied back to that guy stating, "That's how laughs are in general." I mean, when you tell somebody a joke, I mean, yeah, sure, you might expect a laugh out of them. But, laughs are always very sudden and they're always out there and they're always weird. That's just how laughs are with everybody. And we all laugh a bit differently. Some will laugh a bit louder, like my mom's side of the family. I kind of got my laugh from my mom's side. Or sometimes somebody might laugh more quietly, like my father's side. That's just how it is. You can't really choose your laugh. But moving on. And this person also states, you start behaving like a robot now. Your laugh, your movements, etc. And I'm just like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Do you mean since I have a robot companion? Because I actually don't have any robot companions at all. Pe- but people with Asperger's tend to have a robotic voice, and I do have a bit of that. But since I actually do have a bit of Asperger's, but I don't act robotically or anything. I mean, come on. But moving on. I'm the guy that commented on Harmony and Eiko Chirira cost 50K, but she's not a sex bot, only a presentation greeter bot. It was speculated that she could possibly be upgraded for this feature at a later date. She sits upright on a special stand, but could, in theory, be set up with a Segway style scooter to add mobility. Also, to be clear, I was merely commenting on the topic at hand the other day, not trying to suggest that AI is anything that will likely become feasible in the near future. As you've mentioned, both technology and affordability must come together, which, yes, it does, in order for this to become reality. And personally, I don't see that happening anytime soon. The younger guys in the audience will probably see it, though. But even then, Cherry 2000 levels of realism is decades off, if ever. So the bottom line is be happy with your realistic dolls because for the most of us, that's all we're going to ever see. I mean, probably for the next, I would say, decade or two, yeah, probably. But I just commented, well, I'm agreed. Not all worried about having one, though. It would have to be pretty advanced, like a Cherry 2000 or close, for me to consider getting one, though. And they've been working on the VR stuff you guys are talking about since I was a kid. So, yeah, moving on from that. And this person just simply states, now your video and audio quality are perfect. And I just said thanks. But as far as like, I've had to go through at least a couple different cameras because the last camera that I had for a little while, it was 1080p, but like it was starting to go bad. I noticed like sometimes it's like it wasn't even 1080p. Sometimes it'd be like 720 for some reason. And I think it is because it was kind of a cheaper camera, and so it was kind of starting to die out, and lose its quality. So I ended up having to, of course, get a new camera recently, as you see, and so on. And as far as the mic, I also had to go through a couple different mics. At one point, the mic obviously on here wasn't doing any justice, so I ended up having to get another mic, but then that mic ended up not working, so then I had to get another mic, which was kind of working, but it was like having issues, even though even when it was working, like sometimes it would just stop working during the video sometimes, and then I would have to redo the video, and then so I got one that was actually even better, voice quality, and I don't have to deal with that bullshit anymore like I used to with it just going out and not working during the video and then having to restart. So yeah, it's been a bit of a process. You can say that. I mean, I wish I had better tryouts with these cameras and mix before I had to spend all that money just trying to find mix and cameras that actually work. You know what I mean? But moving on. This person just states, I have lived alone, cooked alone, and made every decision in life alone for so long that sharing decision making would be one of the biggest impediments to a relationship for me. I'm just saying that I have credited an entire life alone and have never even considered what it would be like to share things as I see couples do. I guess it would be possible to change and learn to share, but it would be a massive change. I can't help but think about the fact that no one has made me a sandwich, made him a sandwich for 25 years. I might deserve a medal. Great discussion. Well, I mean, as far as myself, like the reason why I kind of choose to, just be single for now, even to this day, it's been definitely over 10 years for me now. I'd say more closer to at least 12 years now, because there was always, I'm not going to say who, just people that never considered my needs and my wants, to say the least, you know, just growing up until I was finally 18. And even then, it just got worse when I turned 18. They were considering my well being and my interest even less so at that time period. And so I kind of had to get out of that situation. It was a very sticky situation at the time. And, it's funny how, looking back, people would always, you know, try to pressure, our younger, kids into, going towards a career and worrying about their future and pressuring them, when at the time I had more important things to worry about than, what's my dream career going to be in the future, you know? And so I kind of had to get myself out of that first before focusing on my interests and also other things, etc. But I also thought it was kind of funny he talked about somebody making him a sandwich, because I also kind of thought, like, what if, like, they actually did make a love doll and then they just added a feature to make somebody a sandwich? I mean, that would be like so sexist, but funny at the same time, to add that feature to a love doll like that. So you could have the option to be like, "Hey, make me a sandwich." I swear to God, I'm so bad sometimes. But moving on. This person just states, I still have my Teddy Babe from 2009 XD. I said, nice. I actually could have kept mine longer, but there's been a space issue lately in my place. I mean, especially with my brother moving into my place now. I mean, at best, I guess I might be able to try to fit some space in for one more love doll, possibly if I get a new one here soon enough, either this year or next. But I'm only going to be able to fit maybe one more, love doll in my place here at best. Because, man, like, we seriously are starting to have some space issues here lately, and let me tell you. So moving on. So this person just states, that woman on the far right side of the couch, on the one who is angry, she seems so defensive, saying this is not a normal spectrum. For me, it is totally normal spectrum. Someday I'd like to introduce her to my live in hologram. Actually, the wife had a real nice smile. And then somebody else actually just quoted underneath that, just saying, people who are hateful like that are typically very insecure people. I mean, you have to be pretty insecure to be threatened by a love doll. Lots of laughs. And, I would say I disagree. I agree. I didn't mean to say I disagree. So moving on. All right, so next one. He states, I'm going to take a wild guess and say that any woman that gets mad at a doll believes themselves to be more worthless than a doll. It's the only reason I can see why that woman would start going Super Saiyan God to counter a doll. If you can move, you can immediately be more useful and affectionate than a doll. And a competition, dolls are pretty easy to beat. It's kind of embarrassing to get mad at any sex toy. I am, and I agree in a sense, but I did say this. Some of it is actually just jealousy. Actually, when a woman looks at a love doll and sees how it looks, in comparison to them, they see how skinny and young, etc. it is and everything, and they know they could never look like that, ever. And they probably don't even know anybody that looks like that. And I mean, as far as people, most women seriously do not even look anything close to that in real life. And it is, and they know that, which is why I laughed when when both the women said, "Oh, she isn't pretty," in kind of a hateful manner, because when they said it like that, I knew that they were just getting jealous at the doll and how pretty she looked, you know. And also, human beings have an inherent fear of being replaced recently, especially recently with the new tech that's been coming out recently in workplaces. And for women that don't know they're making male doll, that, a lot of women for some reason just assume that these companies are only making female dolls, and as well as it's is oh as well as these women, they see it as, oh, this is the way men see us, and it is objectifying. However, women do even if however if women even do a little bit of research, they will tend to see that there's actually nothing going on and that they just need to chill. Is basically what I'm trying to say to this person. I might re-edit what I said to him because what I typed there was maybe a little bit confusing, but I think you guys get the point. Just anybody that doesn't know anything about that or thinks this way, like, like people are just replacing, people with love dolls, just look into it a bit, or even talk to people that might have one, like myself or somebody else. I'm probably going to be one of the few people that are willing to talk about it, so I guess just talk to me, but I think you get the point. Like, yeah, over and over again, I've just had to state that's just ridiculous. Nobody is trying to replace anybody with a love doll. But moving on to the next question. I have a question for you. How often would you use Vaseline on immovable parts on the TPE sex doll? I just said it's fine. Vaseline was originally used as a lube for moving parts, actually, before it was turned white and used for treatment purposes on people. He said, cool. So can't overuse it. And I said, on joint, just use what you need. I mean, just when you're using Vaseline and other stuff like that on your TPE doll, just put a nice layer on top of it and wait for a bit, and then use some water to wash off some of the excess. If there's anything left over, but that's basically it. All right, I need a drink, man. Jesus Christ. Sorry about the camera. I now have my TPE doll, and she has been living with me for nearly 2 months now, and life is much better, but I don't want my love doll to lose her head before her virginity. I still haven't made love to her yet and cannot wait to see how she feels, but now she can't even hold her phone with this loose hand, which is starting to get loose last night, and I don't think it's going to last much longer. So I can ask what can be done for loose joints. I just said for wired hands, you will have to remove the old wires, and for joints, you will have to cut into the seam of the hands and either tighten or get a new bolt for the joint. Now, of course, what I'm saying is that when you're replacing, let's say a wired one, it's kind of like a copper wire, and they tend to easily break. Either they tend to break or they tend to rot over time. And so you have to cut into the hands, and then you have to pull them out, and then you have to get some new copper wires from the company you bought them from, and then you have to put new ones in. And for the joints, you tend to see a seam at the side of the fingers. You just cut into that seam, and you either tighten or you have to take out with a knife, just take out the bolts with a knife, because maybe in some cases they might be broken, and then you just replace the bolts. But I wouldn't always necessarily recommend having, I would say, having these love dolls hold these things, because still these hands are very fragile. And so I wouldn't really have these love dolls holding much. And unless the company themselves actually tells you that you can do stuff like that, I wouldn't really recommend it very much. But moving on. This person just asked me, what nipple color did you choose for your silicone real doll? And I just said, I don't know. I forget. I mean, I just forget, to be honest. I mean, what the exact color of my real doll's nipples, I don't know. But it is a pinkish color. Not a brownish color like maybe some people would choose. I've chose a pinkish color. I mean, what else can I say? But you don't have your real doll doesn't have to look exactly like mine. I will tell you if you're curious, but I think sometimes these people think that they have to have their real doll exactly like mine, and no, you seriously don't have to have it exactly like mine. I mean, you can do what you want. The only thing that I would recommend that you think about really about some of the features that you might not need is if, like, because lots of the features I've realized over time is that I would say a fair amount of them are just for like photo shooting. Like, let's say if you want a doll that stands, normally that's just a photo shoot add-on if you like to do photo shoots with your love doll or whatever, or if you needed them to stand for a different photo shoot or something to be presented or something. You know what I mean? I mean, that's I would say a very good example. Or like the shrugging shoulders, that's just so that they look pretty for a photo shoot, because otherwise playing with the shoulders a lot would probably cause a lot of stress here. And it's not exactly a very useful feature, and it won't give you any added pleasure besides maybe visual pleasure if you just wanted her to look cuter when she's sitting next to you or something, I guess. But, with that being said, I will end the video. And I hope that you weren't too confused with some of the comments that I was reading out, because it was kind of hard for me to read them out for some reason. But, of course, if you guys have any more questions, comments, etc., just lay them down, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.